Anthem for Doomed Youth by Wilfred Owen. This poem is very much an anti-war poem, and it really deals with the idea of what kind of funeral rites, what kind of memorials do we have for soldiers who die in battle. Normally, if somebody dies, there's a funeral and it has lots of rituals associated with it. For example, candles, choirs, hymns, prayers, and everything like that. Whereas for those who die for their country on the battlefield, there's nothing for them. And this is really explored immediately when we get into the poem. Obviously, the meaning of an anthem is something that's best known. It's usually a religious song, and it's best known really as a song of celebration. Something that's in the anthem is very important to the people who are singing it. It's well known by everyone. And this is the anthem for doomed youth. And doomed just means that it's inevitable that the end is not going to be good for these young people. Okay, so it starts off with the first stanza, and we see here, what passing bells for those who die as cattle. And what we see is we have an instant question being asked by the speaker, and it asks us, what passing bells, what kind of, when somebody dies in a funeral, bells are rung to let everyone know that obviously there's a service going on. What passing bells, what funeral bells do we have for these who die as cattle? Now, two very important things here. He doesn't say for those who die as cattle, he says for these who die as cattle. And that quite simply just suggests to us that the people are closer. If he was to have said those who die as cattle, it suggests that he's not as connected. Because he says these who die as cattle, instantly we're given the impression that the speaker is knowledgeable about this and is most likely actually in the middle of the battlefield. We can certainly say the speaker is a soldier, and he's almost disconnected from being a soldier for a minute. He's forgetting all the great things that he's told about fighting for his country, and he's looking at it objectively. And he suggests, he uses a simile for what passing bells for these for who die as cattle. The cattle is a collection of livestock. Cattle are usually slaughtered for meat or for other kind of products. So to instantly make the simile comparing the soldiers who are dying like cattle instantly suggests to us a lot of slaughter. Many, many people are being killed, as this is obviously the plural for a group of livestock, like cows and things like that. And it also suggests quite a brutal, quick killing. And that really is an interesting question to start off the whole poem on. It answers it immediately and says to us the only type of noise, the only type of funeral bell that these poor soldiers have are the monstrous anger of the guns. Now, as if anger isn't a big enough, a bad enough personification to use for the guns, it's saying this monstrous anger as if the anger is like a big monster. And that really intensifies and it emphasises just how angry almost these guns, just how aggressive, how violent these guns are. And it's only this sound only is what is being used to mark the death of these soldiers. It goes on to tell us furthermore, only the stuttering rifles' rapid rattle can patter out their hasty horizons. Now, there's quite a few techniques being used here. Obviously, we've got alliteration here, the rifle's rapid rattle. And that r sound, r. It reminds us obviously of the guns being fired. It's certainly the idea of the gun being used. There's also consonants being used here as well, as you've got the double T's and the consonant sounds being repeated. Stuttering rifles rapid rattle can patter out their hasty horizons. And again, that use of consonants, which again is a repetition of consonant sounds in the middle of words, that use of consonants really again echoes to us the sound of the guns. It further emphasises that there's no bells or funerals for these soldiers. It's the sound of the guns which are being used to mark the death. It tells us as well, the stuttering rifles, it uses personification. It does this quite a bit. It personifies weapons of war and basically makes them more into more human characteristics. And it also turns humans and human institutions like churches into inanimate weapons as well. So it's really playing with that idea. Humans are weapons, weapons are humans. And it's really giving across that idea, the absolute confusion and just how much war does not make sense. Orisons there obviously mean funeral prayers, and it's saying only the stuttering And again, the word stuttering, the use of that personification can suggest that it's not a very careful firing that's being done. It's constant. A stutter is when somebody stutters like that. So it really gives the idea of rapid fire. It backs up that idea of the guns being fired very quickly and very rapidly. And orisons being obviously funeral prayers, and it's only the sound of the guns which offer the sound of the funeral prayers. It goes on here to tell us really quite blatantly, no mockeries. It's almost suggesting that the Christian death ritual funerals are a mockery. It would be an absolute joke in this situation to actually have soldiers fighting for it and fighting for the cause there in the case of a funeral. Because a funeral is something which is done carefully and peacefully, but there's no opportunity for this to happen in war. Therefore, Owen is saying that there are mockeries for them now. He's telling us there's no mockeries, none of these kind of funeral processions for them. There's no prayers nor bells. All the things that we usually associate with a funeral are not present. It goes on to tell us furthermore, there's no prayers, nor bells, nor any voice of mourning. And obviously no mockeries there. It's constantly telling what there is not there, which you would expect. There's not any voice of mourning, apart from the choirs. Now, choirs are something that is an instantly religious word. There's lots of religious imagery and connotations being used all throughout this first stanza. But the idea really here is that what we usually expect in choirs for people to be singing hymns. The choirs on the battlefield are the shrill, demented choirs of wailing shells. And again, it's that idea that the human institution, a choir, usually a very religious idea, is actually being the choir in the battlefield, is actually the shrill, demented wails, choirs of the wailing shells. And it's the idea that all the noise of the shells and the bombs, all the and all those sort of sounds, those are the choirs. They're the only type of choir which exists in the battlefield to pass on any sort of mourning. Again, the weaponry is being personified as humans. The weapons are becoming the choirs, and also obviously the priest or the vicar or the minister who is conducting the ceremony. It is the weapons who are conducting these ceremonies. And it tells us here the bugles calling for them from sad shires. Shires are just different parts of England that are broken up, different counties and countryside, and many of the soldiers would have come from this area. Bugles is like a bit of a trumpet that's played at military funerals, and it's that sound which goes. You get the idea. That's the sound of the bugle, and that's a military funeral. Always features the sound of the bugle being played, and that song there is mostly called "This Last Post," and that's the sound there. It's telling us here that the only kind of remembrance, only kind of funeral thing that there is, are the bugles calling for them from sad shires. This instantly takes us back home. We've been moved from the battlefield here right back into home to the wives and lovers of the soldiers who have been killed and their mourning. And then we end the stanza with this, and we begin the next stanza with Owen asking us what kind of candles, which are usually used in funerals, usually they're in the room where a body lies in a coffin, it will be covered in candles. So it's really the next stanza goes on and asks that question, what candles may be held to speed them all? Which we will go on and explore in just a second. Really important stanza, and it really just reminds us and it really emphasises just how unfair it is that these men who are so proud to be fighting for their country are essentially forgotten about in the battlefield, and they're not even given any sort of remembrance or funeral, obviously because there's so many being killed, as we know from the cattle, but they're not being given any real kind of funeral. They're just being bundled all together more than anything else. Final point I wanted to make just in this stanza is that it's very much a sonnet, as it has 14 lines. It has mostly iambic pentameter and so on. I just want to quickly show you though. We see here, what passing bells for these who die as cattle. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 and a half, which actually takes it up to being a hexameter. And then we've got here, only the monstrous anger of the guns. You see how it's gone from being iambic there to being a trochee there, trochaic. It is mostly written in iambic pentameter, therefore we can say it is a sonnet and it's written in iambic pentameter. But the reason that Owen has changed this is quite simply, it's almost as if this sonnet is the only thing that's left to remember the dead. And by having the sonnet to remember the dead, it therefore means that he doesn't want us to become too comfortable with it. If it was a perfect sonnet, it would suggest that this is a perfect way to remember the dead. The reason Wilfred Owen has changed the form and metre of the poem throughout so that it's mostly iambic pentameter, but we see here trochees obviously being used, is just to make sure that we do not become too comfortable with the ritual of death on the battlefield. He's saying it's not perfect, it's an idea that he's trying, it's some sort of solution, but it's certainly not perfect, and he does not want us as the reader to feel comfortable in this poem. He wants to make us feel uncomfortable. Certainly the idea of the high-pitched, the shrill, demented, which basically means crazy. If somebody's demented, then it means that they're wild, they're not in control of their own mind. So the idea that these are the choirs of wailing shells again puts across the idea that war is crazy, war is mad. There is no need for these young men to be dying. And this is really what he's trying to emphasize as well. We now get taken on to our second stanza, or, because there's 6 lines in here, we call it a sestet. S-E-S-T-E-T. The previous stanza we'd call an octet, because obviously it has 8 different lines, okay? So for a sestet is 6 different lines, just like a quatrain is 4 different lines. Now, this stanza starts again with a question, just as the previous stanza did, and it asks, what candles may be held to speed them all? Simply asking, well, when somebody is buried, or when somebody dies and they're about to be buried in the coffin, what traditionally happens is that the coffin's in a room and it's lit up and surrounded by candles. And the idea is that the candles help to pass them over to the afterworld, to heaven, to the next life. The speaker is very candidly, very pointedly asking, what candles may be held to speed them all? What candles can be held by people to help them get to the next life? It says, not in the hands of boys, but in their eyes shall shine the holy glimmers of goodbyes. Now, this is really, really quite important, these 2 lines here. It goes on to answer the question, which is important, and it also goes on, the words here, we've got words like, shall shine the holy glimmers of goodbyes. Now, there's an instant link with shine and glimmers with the idea of candles. They all have light imagery, if you like. They all make us think about lights that are being used. So it's essentially saying that they don't have candles, but instead the tears that people cry, the mourners cry about their loved ones being killed, and also perhaps the tears of the soldiers who are fighting the battle, the private tears that they have, they are the only kinds of remembrance. They're the only things which can help the bodies, the people, the dead soldiers pass on to the afterworld. He's really emphasizing the emotional aspect of grief. It's the private mourning that goes on, the mourning, the remembering of the dead that people do individually. He goes on and tells us that the pallor of girls' brows shall be their pall, their flowers and the tenderness of patient minds, and each slow dusk a drawing down of blinds. Now, this is really quite a confusing couple of lines. Remember that pallor is a very pale white colour, and it's saying here, the pallor of girls' brows shall be their pall. A pall is a white cloth that is laid over a coffin when somebody has died. They put a white cloth over it. Because these soldiers don't have proper funerals, because their bodies may be in many different pieces in Europe, therefore, metaphorically speaking, the whiteness, the drained faces of the loved ones, they will be the dead soldiers' pals. They will be the white sheets that are metaphorically draped over the coffins. and it's what this line's. We then go into there flowers the tenderness of patient minds, really quite a confusing words. It could be that the speaker is holding up tender, patient minds, and is contrasting those patient minds to those who are all eager and excited about war, who believe that it is sweet and right to die for your country. So in that way, this line could be telling us that the only positive tribute to the dead soldiers comes from the tender thoughts and concerns of those who have more patient, sensitive minds. Those who are really concerned about their safety and the danger they're in and mourn their losses. So it could be read that way. On the other hand, it could be that this line being more critical of these patient minds. It's really almost, perhaps you could read it as saying, these patient minds are no good. These patient minds shouldn't be, they should be a little less patient and more eager, more desperate to bring the boys home to stop this wars. Two different ways you can read it, and you read it however way that you want to read the poem. Perhaps this poem is simply a tribute, the only kind of tribute these dead soldiers get. Alternatively, perhaps this poem is actually critical of the fact that these soldiers do not get such rites and such funerals. It takes us to this, the patient minds bit there. It then takes us to this final line, a neat slow dusk, a drawing down of blinds. Now, dusk obviously being that period between when the end of the day and the night falls. Dusk is the end of the day. Obviously could be a metaphor for the end of their lives as well. And a drawing down of blinds. And that continues this idea of the blinds being drawn down, being taken down. Now, what's really quite clever with this is that the word slow reflects the way that the poem is being slowing down. You see in the way you read it all together, the pace slows down towards the end of this second stanza. The drawing of blinds really works on one hand as an image of death. The families that have lost young men are the ones closing the blinds, and it kind of matches to the image to the closing and ending of a life. It could also work as an image of the civilians at home who are drawing down their blinds, acting as a symbol for the way that they're keeping out the realities of war. They don't want to be troubled, they don't want to be bothered by it, they don't want to realise how horrific and horrible this is. The idea is that they'll wave their flags by day and be very patriotic, but at night time they'll close their blinds so they don't have to see the darkness, the realities of war. Now, the grammar of this sentence is really quite clever because it really emphasises that people refuse to take responsibility for the war. It doesn't actually tell us who is drawing down these blinds. It doesn't tell us at all. It's a very passive sentence. We don't actually know who it is. So what, of course, that means is that if we can read it as the people at home, we could read it as obviously the drawing down of blinds being the death, we could read it as possibly the people in charge of the war, drawing down the blinds and the horrors of it as well. But what it really does effectively is that it helps to link to this idea of patient minds. If you believe that the drawing down of blinds is the public or government's willingness just to shut out all that is happening, all that is wrong with war, if you read it that way, then you can also say that the drawing down of blinds emphasises the patient minds, the idea that the patient minds shouldn't be so patient, they should be actually fighting about bringing the boys back home. This final line also ties in with it. The poem as a whole, as I said, there's two different ways you can read it. Is it a tribute to the fallen soldiers, the only kind of tribute they're going to get? Or is it actually being critical of society, of government, of the army, and the way that things are done? The way that these young soldiers are dying basically as cattle. They're being just wiped out. They're not being respected as human lives. They're almost just like cattle to be slaughtered. Which is what they are. They're meant to be slaughtered. Especially the front lines of a war, most of the time these people are the ones who die. So it's really, it can be read two ways. You need to work out which way you want to read it and which way you want to understand it, to really, and then go with that in your essay.